Hi, it's Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts. I'm only doing one video a week now. I don't know, we're just kind of busy. So, last video we did something different. We made this silicone bronze piece, and we used the, I think we used the power hammer and the maglio and the English wheel, and I was trying to explain how difficult this silicone bronze it works, but it does work really beautiful. So everybody asked what it was for, and it's for a sink. This is like a valance panel under the sink, and I made the wire form from the drawing, and this is actually the little sink basin right here. That'll go right like that, and then there's a countertop, and this is going to have a hammered finish on it, and ideally this will have a hammered finish on it too. So this is the one side, the one little piece, and this is a silicone bronze, which I use silicone bronze rod, and I might have played with a piece somewhere along the line, but I really didn't have any knowledge, thorough knowledge of silicone bronze. It welds very easily. It looks like brass. It's a copper alloy. It's mostly copper, but it's just so easy to weld. You can fusion weld it, but I actually cut strips of the material off and used the little strips to weld it with. And it's not the best looking bead, and it drops through quite a bit, so you have to grind both sides pretty good. But it feathers out nice, and there's no dip or anything here, and it wheels over nice, or hammers over. It doesn't matter what you do. It's malleable enough. Now, one of the problems we had, and I'll show you that in a minute, but first, please remember to subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to grow the channel. Please give us the comments, the likes, and hit that little notification bell. All right, so here's the other side that was made, and that fits on there beautifully. And this is going to get welded here. This is going to have to be opened up for a service door to be able to reach the plumbing and all that stuff. Now I want to show you about the sink bowl, the saga of the sink bowl. Here's the sink bowl, and my intent was to use my power hammer and to shrink this all the way down. Unfortunately, this is as far as I got, and this took a lot of work. This is 70 thousandths material, and as you shrink it, it gets thicker on the edges. So I got it almost there, but it's stalled. The part of the problem is, if this was copper and you made it out of copper and annealed it, it gets super soft, and it would be no problem at all making this out of copper. And we had tried another metal, Valnce metal, prior to this, and that was the same deal. We couldn't anneal it. Now, we've read the instructions on how to anneal it, and I think it's quite possible I might have been a little bit confused. Let me get a piece of metal and I'll show you. All right, so as far as annealing this, I thought it was going to be a slam dunk. Copper is just so easy. I just bring copper up to a dull red, and something like this, if it was a copper, you hit it, and you know, this will be a dull red, and by the time you get over here, this has cooled quite a bit, but it didn't seem to make any difference on a piece of copper. You just quench it or let it air quench, and it takes probably about 20 minutes for this to become to room temperature. If you water quench it, it goes really fast, and the metal gets really soft. So I thought the same technique would work on the silicone bronze. So just taking my thumbs like this and bending, I can feel that resistance. Pretty strong stuff. Well, here's a little spot, and I've bent this a bunch, so it's probably work hardened a little bit here. But I just annealed this with a number 2 tip torch, and it is still soft compared to its neighbor right here, which is much more force to move it. So that gave me a little more insight as to what was going on here, and I think that reading the instructions on how to anneal it online is that you really have to quench it right away. You can hot work it too, and the interesting thing on this was when we took the rosebud and I globally tried to anneal this, so I got it I'd get it red over here, and like I said, by the time I got over here, the redness wouldn't be all constant. And then I air cooled them and I water cooled them, and it didn't seem to make much difference. It was still pretty stiff. In the instructions online, or the description of the annealing process online, it said that it'll air harden again. So I came to the belief that the only way I could work this metal, and the way I had to do it with my power hammer thumbnail die, was I started actually working it hot, because you can work it hot, and that Muntz metal you can work hot too. So we had to heat a section about this big red hot, and then by the time I got my gloves on, I had a nice leather vest and stuff, that it cooled down a little bit and it would work, but it only worked a little bit. So I'm beginning to think now that I might have done the wrong approach, and based on the evidence of this was heated to a dull red and then cooled immediately. So if I had a do-over on this, I would heat that one spot, bring it up to temperature, and then quench it real quick with a hose or in the sink or whatever. And I think I would get a pretty good anneal in that spot, which would allow me to shrink it. And I would have to do that multiple times to get that to come over. What happened here was I learned that I was going to do a manual shrink. I had a metal shaping hammer, and basically I had a big pucker here, and I had one of my elbows, the big giant plumbing elbows, and I clamped it to it, and I was going to knock that down like a gather. And I heated it up with the rosebud, nice super hot red, and then started hammering it, and I said, uh-oh. And I found out that it didn't like to be worked super hot red. If it's a dull red, you could work it, but a very bright red, it becomes brittle. And that's true of like brass. If you want to bend brass, if you heat it up, it'll just break right off. I think I might have been successful if I continued on with this localized rather than global type of annealing on this, but instead we were going to not scrap this piece, but we're not going to use this piece. So I decided, because the welding is actually so easy on this, that we started to make the bowl in sections. So we got 3 sections. I made the wire form. This is a paper, what I call a proto flexible shape pattern. I tape them all up, and that gives me my shape that I want. And I made this so far, and this is just about fitting. It's pretty close. So now what I got to do is make these side pieces, and the side pieces go right like that. So there's my guide here, and this material comes half hard, and there's my half. So I got to make 2 more halves to complete this bowl, and then I'll have to weld it together, weld it on the ends, and it wants to have a really nice hammered finish on it. This did, and then I put it in my wheel over here. I got a real high crown wheel, and it knocked out most of the hammered finish, so I got to hit this again on the hammer. So that will all be a hammered finish, and it's really beautiful. The color of this metal is just incredible, and with the hammered texture, it's just gorgeous stuff. So that will be a light hammer to put the hammer finish on there again. And it's going to be trimmed, and then the 2 sides welded on. So what we're going to do right now is we'll bring this over to the power hammer. It doesn't have that much shape in it. I think that'll pop up pretty quick because it's got a bend in it, and then it's got a little area change here to pop that up. So we'll put that in the power hammer, and I got it set up to do this heavy hammered finish look. We lengthen the stroke, so we'll go over to the power hammer and give that a shot. All right, so to do that hammered finish, we got a really small die in here. I got a bunch of different die holders. The dies just drop in on the bottom. And to change the die, I have to swing this out like this. And I got a VFD control on it, so I can go real slow. And what will happen with a power hammer is, see, you can go like that, but you have to go to a certain speed, and then it starts throwing the weight. So let's see what that does. You got to use muffs with this, because it's really loud. We got a Harbor Freight light there. These are awesome. They're magnetic. And there's the super heavy finish with the hammered finish on the inside. And let's see where we're at now. All right, so you can see we only got a little bit to go. Just to give that theory a try, let's take the rosebud and we'll anneal this and then cool it, anneal this, then cool it, and anneal that, and then cool it. So, over to the rosebud. All right, so we'll light up the rosebud here, and I think I'll probably do the center first. The center is going to need more work than the ends, and I'm probably going to wheel it the rest of the way here. We'll see what happens, and we're going to have to hammer finish it after. I'm just going to do the center. All right, so we got the center done. And here's the beauty of the silicone bronzes. Look at the surface colors that happen when you heat patina it like that. It's just absolutely amazing. And of course, you you really don't know what you're going to get. On this side here, the black fire scale, but that'd be the inside of the bowl, and that's pretty strong surface coloration. That would probably last a long time inside the sink bowl. So now let me hit the ends one at a time here. And I don't know if Mark needs to capture all this, but we're going to do the same process and get this all annealed in theory. Let's find out if we actually annealed it. And the point of showing this silicon bronze in the sink project is these skill sets can be applied to so many different things. You know, household furniture you can make, seats and all kinds of chairs and tables and just about any decorative thing in the house. And then also, you know, the same skill sets apply to making aircraft skins and automotive skins and boat skins and sculptural skins, old armor if you want to reproduce armor or new style armor. Or I have a friend that actually makes Hollywood sets. He's been making the Rocket Man backpacks. He calls himself templates, is it what?
Armor templates.
Armor templates, yeah. He's got like 300,000 subscribers. If you want to see an interesting website, check out, or YouTube channel, check out David Goyton, Armored Templates. So there's a lot of different things you can make with these skill sets. Basically, it's unlimited, you know, and then you can combine it with wood and all kinds of stuff. And it's all basically derivative of the skills that were learned thousands and 5,000 years or so ago using gold and silver to make jewelry and household items out of those metals. And there's just so many metals you can experiment with too. Look at that, look, that's unbelievably beautiful stuff. So, and then you can do chemical patina on it too, acid patina, just there's regular chemicals that you can use besides acids, and then the heat patina. So there's just so much you can do with this metal. So let's dry that off and we'll throw that in the English wheel and see if we can develop that shape that we need. All right, so as you can see, we only got about a ½ an inch to come up here, and then this, in theory, will wrap around here really nicely and make your side of the sink here, and it'll be an easy weld. The welds are just really, really easy on these. So I've got this really high crown. I barely ever use this, but it turned out to work perfect. Years ago when I was working in my basement, I had a small little Rockwell lathe, and I couldn't really turn. It was beyond the capacity of my little Rockwell lathe to turn this. And I'd become friends with Tom Lipton, another YouTube channel. If you're not watching a machining channel, Tom's got a channel. In fact, he's sort of been an inspiration for me as far as starting my YouTube channel. He's been doing it, I think, for like 7 years now. And I think he's over 100,000 subscribers too. So watch that. It's called Ox Tools, Tom Lipton. He just recently moved to a rural area somewhere north of San Francisco. I don't know for sure where it is. So he's still in the process of setting his new shop up. So he turned these for me. I had 2 of them. And I hardly ever use them, but it's working perfectly for this job. Super high crown wheel. So that noise is all the hammered finish, which this wheel will now reduce a lot of that hammered look. But it actually leaves a really nice surface. And now I think it's annealed because I think it's going to move a little faster. It'll stay annealed a little while. You might have to anneal it again. But this is indicative also of how you create shapes. Whereas this I would call the piecemeal method, where it's basically all stretching. So this here was all stretching. I tried to shrink this both in my power hammer I have a 4-inch thumbnail die, and I also tried to shrink it in my Trump machine, which has a 2-inch die. And I hadn't annealed it like we just did that, and it just wouldn't move this stuff. It's just too stiff. Whereas this attempt was all shrinking, making it all by shrinking, and this would have been like a 90% shrink with maybe a 10% stretch to get it to fit and to conform to that buck, the wire form buck, really good. But this turned out to be all stretch. So, but now you pay the price, you have to do the welding, but this welding is really easy. So I just wanted to say that because it shows how you can approach the problem in different ways. We'll take a look at that surface quality now. See all that heavy surface denting from the small die on the bottom is now being reduced quite a bit to just little small craters. Like, it's got a really nice look to it. So that might be an idea for finishing this off that way. I'm not sure. Let's see what we got now. We had about a 1/2 inch. And let's see, we might made a little progress now. Still about a 1/2 inch or so. So we got to bump the pressure up a little bit. We're just about there on these ends, so I don't have to do too much on the ends. This isn't entirely accurate because this is made with just a stiff craft paper with a lot of tape, and it's off a little bit. So we might have to actually fit this, but I believe we're going to have to put a little bit more in the middle here. So let me concentrate a little more in the middle. Now, so at this point we're underdeveloped, and we're adding area into the panel by compression stretching it. It's stretching omnidirectionally in the center of the panel where I'm wheeling here. We got a small contact patch on this wheel, and we got a pretty good amount of pressure on here. So it's popping it. And we'll get this smoothed out. And then the intention will be to wrap it around the wire form and clamp it on with some my squeeze clamps with the rubber on them, and that will allow me to see where I'm at. So you start out underdeveloped, and you want to get to the point, ideally, to fully develop. But oftentimes you can make a mistake not monitoring your progress enough, and you'll overdevelop it. Now, if you overdevelop it, that's not the end of the world. You can work these edges and take that overdevelopment out very easily. And that proto flexible shape pattern made with the paper is pretty inaccurate because you don't have a full surface on that wire form. So there's a lot of errors in it, but at least it's a starting point to where you got to go. Now, once I get one of these made, I can make a regular flexible shape pattern off of it to make the other side, which is just the reverse of it. So now we're down to about 1/4 of an inch there, according to this, but this says I got more over here, and that's probably an error. So let's take this, we'll fold this up a little bit, and we'll try to clamp this on and see where we're at. So we put that like that, and you can see where that's going to be cut and trimmed and welded, and you have your nice deep bowl there. Should be a beautiful piece when it's all done. So this is a little bit bigger than I need, so we get our clamps. And these are Home Depot. They're still maintaining the price at 99 cents, which is the best price anywhere on these clamps. Last time I bought 20 of them about a month ago, and I expected them to be probably $2 a piece, but they haven't bumped the price yet, but it's imminent. And the rubber I get from Tractor Supply. This is a horse mat that you can buy. It's the cheapest rubber out there, and you put a little 1032 bolt in there. Now, why do you do that? Well, that protects the metal. It gives actually more squeeze to the clamp. You have to clamp this stuff on to actually read the panel to find out exactly where you're at. So we got to make sure that we're going to go to the halfway point. The halfway point is here and here. We've got extra material, and you can see we're actually pretty close. This top edge has got to come in, but let's see how much it'll actually come in. And this is where we quantify it. This is going to be trimmed flush here eventually, so there's extra material there. I can slide this down for a cheat if I need to. If I'm a little tight there, I just got to slam that down a little. All right, so this is the beauty of a wire form versus the wood buck. A wood buck, you could not do this. Everybody says, well, I can make a wood buck real quick. Yeah, but you pay the price. As you can see, what's going to have to happen here is this has got to come in about 1 inch. So this is the quantification here. So we get this all clamped. Let's clamp it this way. We'll orient it this way, and we'll find out that it needs more area in the center of the panel because we can see it. You can't see it with a wood buck. If you want to see what you need to do, you need a feeler gauge. Where's my feeler gauge? So we get this all clamped up nice like this, and then we take, I think it's about a 8 thousandths or 10 thousandths feeler gauge, and we put it in there. Look at, here's where it's hitting. Where it's hitting is where you got to give it the work. Now, how would you see that with a wood buck? We don't have a problem over here. We don't have a problem over here. We have a problem here, here, and here. So there's a swath in the middle. So that's probably going to be another 10, 15 minutes or whatever to wheel that and get that one fitting really good. Then I'll probably make a flexible shape pattern to make the other side. It'll help me, guide me a little bit more. Again, it's all about information. It's not the tools, it's information. Technique and the technique to work the metal and the information about the surface are the most important things. And a lot of that times that gets lost. People obsess about tools. This could be all done manually. You don't have to have a power hammer or anything. You can put these hammered finish look in with a little hammer, and it'd come out beautiful. So it'll probably be another 10-15 minutes for me to get that to fit in nicely. Then I got to trim it. Then we'll do a flexible shape pattern, and then I got to do the same thing on the other side and getting that fit really nice. And then I'll bring this over it, do all the trimming, and eventually it gets all welded together. And then I'm going to put a little bit of a hammered finish, a lighter hammer finish on it after I get it all fitting. So watch the different channels like Dave Goyton of Armored Templates, Tom Lipton of Ox Tools, and there's another one that's really impressive that you might be interested in is this Douglas Pryor. Doug Pryor is a young guy, and he's become an expert in chasing and also repousse. He does incredible detailed pieces, and he does classes, and I think he does online classes too. But check him out, Douglas Pryor. I think he has a YouTube channel, and he's definitely on Facebook. I share a lot of his stuff. It's just so amazing. But I think that's all I'm going to show tonight. I hope you enjoyed that. It's Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop, and tell your friends, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.